My name is Tiffany Kane. I'm 37, a project manager who can organize a hurricane and still have dinner on the table by 7. People in my family call me when chairs wobble, plans wobble, or dignity wobbles. I'm the one who finds the manual when everyone else loses the box. Tonight, the only storm I want to manage is a pot of boiling water and a 9-year-old with a cheese grater. Our place is small, bright in the evening, the kind of apartment that smells like coffee no matter the hour. The laundry in the hallway hums like polite gossip. There's a tomato plant on the balcony that refuses to quit. I respect anything that's stubborn. Inside, the rug is a confetti field Tessa picked because she said it looked like celebration, even on a Tuesday. She stands on a step stool, careful and proud, shaving a drift of parmesan like she's mining snow from a quiet mountain. "Tell me when," she says, waiting for my nod. I glance from the pot to the clock to the laptop I promised I wouldn't open. It sits on the counter anyway, the way habits sit, daring you to break them. 2 minutes, I say. Pasta forgives late diners. She smiles at the phrase. Tessa collects phrases the way some kids collect stones. She is 9 going on library. My phone buzzes once, face down on the counter. Then again, Mom, Aaron, Mom. I can tell without looking. In our family, urgency often travels in groups. I let the first call pass, then the second. I tell myself I'm being present. Truth is, I don't have the energy for a committee tonight. Steam purls the window. The pot sings its small, steady note. I break the spaghetti in half with that soft double crack you feel in your palms. Tessa hums to herself, a tune I don't recognize, something bright and brave. "Can we do salad too?" she asks. "You read my mind," I say, and pull a colander from the cupboard, the metal ringing like a tiny bell. I set the table with 2 mugs, because we always end with tea, and a candle Tessa insists we light even when we're tired. "It makes regular nights feel chosen," she told me once. I believed her. I still do. Before I tell you what interrupted our little sanctuary and how fast a calm kitchen can turn, tell me where you're watching from, drop your city in the comments, because what happened next could happen anywhere. The first hint was a small, cheerful chime from the backpack we keep by the door. Tessa's Bluetooth speaker, her audiobook buddy, had found a signal. I didn't think twice. The pasta rolled to a boil, the candle breathed, the apartment held steady. Then a voice, smooth, bright, practiced, spilled into our kitchen, too loud for our little life. "Hey, quick update. We went over the numbers. Thanks for the 56, but we can't do extra kids past cocktail hour. Unless budgets double for inner circle. That includes Tessa. She's adorable, but we only have room for priorities. Don't make this hard. Love you." The words floated there, then settled like smoke you don't see until you can taste it. Tessa froze mid-stroke, the cheese clinging to the grater's teeth. She didn't look at me. She looked down at her hands, as if checking whether they were the problem. I crossed the room, thumbed the speaker off. The blue light dimmed like an apology that arrived too late. For a second, the only sound was water and a small crackle from the candle. "You didn't do anything wrong," I said, kneeling so we were eye to eye. "Not one thing." She nodded once, brave the way kids get when they're trying to carry a weight that doesn't belong to them. "It's okay, Mom," she whispered, small but steady. "I can stay home if it helps." Something tugged inside me, like a zipper pulled the wrong way. All the old little rescues, the last-minute transfers, the quiet yeses in the name of keeping the peace, they crowded the room. I put my hand over hers, warm and flour-dusted. "You are not a problem to solve," I told her. "You are the point." Her mouth quivered, then set. She placed the grater down carefully, like it might shatter if she moved too fast. "Can we still do salad?" she asked, because children know how to guard normal. "We can still do salad," I said, "and we will still do sparklers on holidays and bedtime stories on Tuesdays. None of that changes." She climbed off the step stool and fetched the lettuce with the seriousness of a surgeon. I drained the pasta. We moved around each other the way we've learned to, close, competent, listening for the other's breath. The apartment looked the same, but every object felt outlined, as if the room had been traced with a darker pencil. We ate at the small table, forks clicking softly. I asked about school. She told me about a girl who taped pencils to her fingers and called them learning claws. We laughed at the right places. We stacked bowls. We watered the tomato plant, the stubborn thing that refuses to quit. We did every ordinary task like we were proving we still could. Later, in the doorway of her room, she arranged her stuffed sloth beside her, its stitched smile pointed toward the ceiling. "Do you think Aunt Chloe doesn't like kids?" she asked, eyes fixed on the blank above us. "I think some people like rules more than people," I said, "and sometimes they confuse mood with kindness." She thought about that, nodded once, and pulled the blanket to her chin. "If I go," she said, trying to sound casual, "can I wear the sparkly shoes?" "If you go," I said, "you can absolutely wear the sparkly shoes." I watched her fall asleep, a book tented on her chest like a little roof. In the kitchen, the pot had cooled to a quiet circle of reflection. I could see my face there. Tired, yes, but steady. The phone lit up again on the counter. Mom, then Aaron, then Mom. I let it glow and dim on its own. I didn't rehearse anything. I didn't plan a speech. I stood in the soft dark and felt something settle into place, calm as a decision that has been waiting for you to catch up. When the apartment finally stilled, I opened the laptop I'd promised to ignore. The glow washed over the countertop, turned the candle stub into a lighthouse. I pulled up the file that keeps my life from fraying, rows and columns that don't lie when people do. The sheet still wore its polite title, Wedding Support. I scrolled. May, venue deposit, $1,700. You're a lifesaver. July, flowers, $2,000. She's a visionary, we have to lock her in. August, photographer retainer, $900. She's the only one who gets our vibe. Last week, tasting minimum, $1,000. It wouldn't be fair to ask his parents again. On the right, the total field blinked its neutral math, $5,600. Numbers don't shout, they simply sit, waiting for you to understand what you've allowed. I opened a second folder, dusty scans, receipts, bank confirmations I'd tucked away for years under the label family. One by one, I laid them out on the screen like evidence. The deductible when Dad's knee went bad, the midsummer air conditioner repair that bought everyone a night of sleep, the deposit on an apartment in a city Aaron didn't know with an employer he'd only met online. Some amounts were small, forgettable. Others carried the weight of a month's rent. Together they formed a staircase I'd been climbing for a decade with Tessa on my hip. I added a fresh tab and began tallying. It was slow work. The kind that makes your spine ache and your jaw clench. But the lines added up the way truth does when you stop negotiating with it. Not 5,000, not 10. The sum crept toward a number that sounded like a separate life, more than I wanted to admit out loud. Enough to explain the way my chest had started tightening when my phone lit with family names. From the bedroom, Tessa turned in her sleep. The sloth hit the floor with a soft thud. I paused, listened, waited for the small sigh that meant she'd settled. Then I kept going. On the margin of the sheet, where I usually leave notes about due dates and confirmation codes, I wrote 4 words: "We don't owe anyone." The sentence looked strange in my handwriting, like a guest who'd arrived before you'd decided to invite them. I copied it onto a sticky note and pressed it to the fridge. The paper buckled against the cool metal, then clung. I returned to the spreadsheet and clicked the title. The cursor blinked, patient. I deleted wedding support. I typed boundaries. It was a small change, but the room noticed. The tomato plant on the balcony leaned into the night air. The laundry in the hall wound down and went quiet. The candle gave one last pop and surrendered to smoke. The silence didn't feel empty, it felt clean. I added one last line, simple and final. Starting now, no is a complete sentence. I closed the folders I'd trained myself to keep open, one for emergencies, one for excuses. I backed up the file because that's what a project manager does, even when the project is herself. Then I stood at the sink and rinsed the pasta pot until the water ran clear. The phone on the counter trembled with another missed call. I let it. I had seen what I needed to see. I had made a line where there hadn't been one. Beyond the window, the city kept breathing. Sirens somewhere far off, a stray laugh, a door shutting 2 floors down. I turned off the laptop. I smoothed the sticky note with my thumb as I passed the fridge, a benediction for an ordinary night that had chosen a different ending. Then I went to check on Tessa, counting to 10 at her doorway the way I always do, and let the quiet tell me what would come next. Morning came on like a clean page. I packed Tessa's lunch, braided her hair the way she likes, one loose strand left to feel the air, and walked her to school. At the curb, she squeezed my hand twice, our code for everything's okay. I watched until she disappeared under the arch of backpacks and chatter, then stood there a beat longer, letting the noise pull me back into the day. At my desk, the inbox blinked with things that could wait. I handled what couldn't, a quick approval, a reschedule, a note to a client who overuses exclamation points, then pushed my chair back. The courtyard behind our building is a strip of sun and worn benches where people eat from plastic bowls and scroll through someone else's happiness. I took my coffee out there, sat where the light made the phone screen a mirror, and saw a woman I almost recognized. I opened the family group thread. There were messages stacked on messages from the night before. Mom's concern dressed as command. Aaron's jokes stretched too thin. I scrolled to the bottom and placed the cursor in the empty field. The words had been waiting in me since the candle went out. From now on, I typed, Tessa and I will attend the wedding under the original invitation terms. I won't be making additional contributions. Please don't call me at work. I read it once for truth and once for tone. Then I hit send. Before the dots could start dancing, I opened a fresh message to my father. He has always believed in smoothing water with his hands, as if he could calm a river by asking nicely. I love him for it and resent the way it's been used. Please don't smooth this over behind my back, I wrote. That's part of the problem. I let the sentence stand alone. I pressed send. Last, I pulled up the thread with the wedding planner, a woman who knew more about our family's logistics than any relative should. She had copied me on menus and timelines and tiny emergencies that were never mine. Please remove me from all logistics and vendor communications, I wrote. Any financial questions should go directly to Aaron and Chloe. Send. The phone sat there, light and heavy at once. In the reflection, I could see a few leaves moving in a breeze that hadn't reached me yet. Big surgery? Maya's voice came from my right. She doesn't sneak up, she just arrives. 3 stitches, I said, managing half a smile. She tipped her chin toward the phone. You know, she said, you don't have to attend every emotional circus just because they hand you a ticket. I returned mine, I said. Good, she answered. Let them juggle their own torches. We sat for a minute, the way friends do when nothing needs fixing. The sounds of lunch, forks on lids, a laugh, a chair scraping concrete, filled the space my anxiety used to take. When my screen buzzed, I flipped the phone over, face down on the bench. It could live without me for an hour. Back inside, I finished 2 emails and a budget note that had been glaring at me all week. I ate an apple that tasted better than it deserved. I felt the wobble in my stomach that comes with saying a thing out loud after years of whispering around it, and then, underneath that, something steadier, not victory, just alignment. At 2 o'clock, I closed my laptop and went to get my daughter. On the walk home, she told me she'd been chosen to read the morning announcements the next day. I have to stand tall, she said, practicing, her voice lifting into the future. I looked down at her and thought, so do I. By late afternoon, the chorus began. Mom first, her voice message smooth and urgent. Sweetheart, you're not yourself. Don't make this bigger than it is. Then Aaron, texting in quick bursts. We already counted you for the rehearsal dinner. Don't complicate things. Chloe followed with the careful politeness of a press release. I wish you'd called instead of making it awkward in writing. I let the screen light up and fade out on its own. At pickup, Tessa ran into my arms, breathless, a paper clutched in her hand. I'm reading the morning announcements, she said, face lifted to the sky like it had something for her. We walked home slow. I listened to every detail. The phone stayed buried in my bag. At the apartment, I pulled bread and cheese, opened a can of tomatoes, set a small pot to simmer. Grilled cheese and soup? She asked, as if I had just announced a holiday. I buttered the pan and said, the deluxe. We moved in the small rhythm we know. One sets the table, one stirs the soup, one rinses bowls, one stacks them. My laptop stayed closed. The candle flickered on the table because Tessa insists dinner is a ceremony, even on a school night. The phone danced on the counter again. Mom, Aaron, Mom, Chloe. I didn't pick up. Tessa glanced at it, then at me. Aren't you going to answer? No, I said, pouring soup into 2 mugs. I'm done explaining. She considered that the way she does with new rules, then nodded. Like when you say bedtime is bedtime. We ate and the soup tasted like warmth you don't have to earn. After dishes, we watched a rerun she loves, and I watched her laugh without checking email once. When she was tucked in, she asked from the doorway, Are we still going to the wedding? I kissed her forehead. We'll go the way we were invited, I said. The sparkly shoes still stand. She smiled into her pillow. Back in the kitchen, the phone held a new stack of messages. I scrolled without opening. Mom again. This family needs peace. Aaron. You're embarrassing us. I set the phone face down and stood in the quiet until my heartbeat matched the room. Morning arrived with coffee and sunlight across the counter. The group chat lit up like firecrackers. Mom. Let's not ruin something so special over a misunderstanding. Chloe. We're all stressed. Please be reasonable. I typed one line and sent it before I could translate it into something softer. Boundaries aren't misunderstandings. At lunch, Maya passed my desk and arched an eyebrow. How's the triage nurse doing? I'm off duty, I said. She grinned. Good. Let grown people treat their own fevers. That evening, Tessa and I walked the long way home. She kicked every leaf on the sidewalk. We stopped in front of a bridal shop, glass flooded with white, lace, sequins, impossible clouds. She pressed her face to the window. Do you think Aunt Chloe's dress looks like that? Probably, I said. Would yours? She asked. If I ever wore one, I said, it would have pockets. She laughed. You'd put snacks in it. Exactly, I said. Never go hungry for anyone. Back home, I opened my laptop, but not for work. I found the shared wedding folder and removed myself from access. Then I opened the family chat, watched the thread spool down the screen, and let my thumb hover over Leave Group. It felt dramatic and also like taking off a pair of shoes that hurt. I tapped. The screen asked if I was sure. I was. The silence that followed didn't echo. It settled. I shut the laptop. In the hallway, the laundry hummed, and somewhere outside a siren passed, small and moving on. I turned off the kitchen light, smoothed the sticky note on the fridge with my thumb, and let the quiet hold. Tomorrow could bring whatever it wanted. Tonight belonged to us. The restaurant believed the smaller the bite, the higher the bill. White tablecloths, rosemary sprigs pretending to be forests, candles flickering like they might grant wishes if you were rich enough. I walked in on time and unhurried. Mom rose first, relief lighting her face, not affection. "Oh, good, you came," she said, patting my arm. "I told them you'd come to your senses." "I didn't come for senses," I said, taking my seat. "I came for clarity." Chloe smiled, glossy and fixed. "Tiffany, so glad you're here. Let's clear the air, okay? It's been a week." Aaron's warning look slid across the table, the old brother-to-sister signal that meant don't make a scene. The server set down thimble-sized soup shots. "Truffle," Chloe cooed. "Adorable." I lifted mine, inhaled, set it down. Adorable isn't edible. We made it through the first course on muscle memory, compliments for food that needed a microscope, laughter that belonged to someone else. Mom orchestrated it like always, redirects, quick subject changes, the well-practiced cheer of a woman who believes volume can manufacture peace. Midway through the second course, Chloe folded her napkin into a neat triangle. "So," she said, voice sweetened at the edges, "we got your texts. We understand you're overwhelmed. You've always carried too much. We don't want you to feel pressured." I tilted my head. "You mean the pressure of paying for things I can't afford while pretending it's gratitude?" Mom's hiss clipped the air. "Tiffany." The server hovered, then retreated. Aaron cleared his throat. "Let's not—" "No," I said, and reached into my purse. My phone settled in my palm like something that finally knew its job. I tapped. The room filled with Chloe's voice, sunshine polished to a cutting edge. "Thanks for the 56, but no extra kids after cocktail hour, unless budgets double for inner circle. That includes Tessa. She's adorable, but we only have room for priorities. Don't make this hard. Love you." Silence. A fork hit a plate like punctuation. Aaron's mouth opened and closed. Chloe went pale, then blotched. "That is wildly out of context," Mom snapped. "The context," I said evenly, "is months of invoices disguised as invitations, years of being told love comes with a payment plan." The wedding planner, who had watched this like a firefighter eyeing a grease fire, cleared her throat. "If I may," she said, careful as a tightrope walker, "keeping children past cocktail hour adds approximately $1,600. That's the only budget adjustment needed." I turned to her. "So if the neon sign goes, or the oyster bar, there's room for every kid, including my daughter." "Easily," she said. Chloe's composure cracked. "The neon sign is a moment." "Telling a child she isn't welcome is a moment too," I said. "Just not one you can post." Mom leaned forward, voice low and sharp. "You are humiliating your brother." "No," I answered, placing my napkin beside the plate. "I'm reminding him who's been humiliated all along." Dad stared at the table, jaw tight, not neutral. Aaron finally found words. "Chloe, you said you'd—" "I said what everyone was thinking," she shot back, then caught herself, pasting the PR smile back on. "I mean, stress. We're all under so much stress." I stood. The untouched macaron on my dessert plate looked like a joke that didn't land. "Enjoy your tasting," I said, slipping my phone into my bag. "I'm done being the flavor you take for granted." "Sit down," Mom whispered, brittle. "We can resolve this." "We could have," I said, "back when respect was cheaper than neon." I pushed in my chair. The candle at my place guttered, then steadied. I didn't look to see who followed my gaze. I walked past the bar, past the framed awards, through a door that sighed on its hinges like it knew me. Outside, the air was clear and honest. Through the glass, their voices blurred into a low, frantic hum. They would rewrite the conversation if they could. The voicemail wouldn't let them. Neither would I. Morning brought the buzzing again, but not the same song. Mom's first text landed at 6:42. "We need to talk. Family doesn't air private matters in public." I set the phone beside my coffee and watched the steam rise. 10 minutes later, This isn't who you are. You're letting pride ruin relationships. I let the messages sit where they were. By 9, Aaron called twice. I ignored the first. I answered the second. His voice was low, sanded down. You didn't have to do that in front of everyone. I didn't, I said. You did when you let Chloe speak for both of you. He was quiet long enough for a small truth to take root. You were right about the money, he said finally. I should have stepped up. I thought you didn't mind. That's the problem, I told him. You mistook my silence for comfort. That afternoon, the group thread shifted tone. Chloe's message arrived, punctuation careful, lowercase apologies like stepping stones. Tiffany, I want to apologize. I spoke carelessly. I shouldn't have brought Tessa into a budget discussion. That wasn't fair. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't sidestep. I wrote back, thank you. An unknown number followed, a different handwriting behind the screen. This is Chloe's mother. We heard what happened. Please know Tessa is welcome. We'll cover the additional cost. Children make celebrations brighter. I read it twice, not because I didn't understand it, but because I did. My shoulders dropped in a way I hadn't noticed they'd been raised. The days stretched out just enough for ordinary things to return. Tessa scored a goal at soccer, her first. She ran to me, eyes bright. Did you see? I told her I'd seen the whole way. We bought tacos from the truck by the park and ate them on the curb like we were on vacation somewhere near and cheap. A letter arrived in our mailbox, heavy envelope, Aaron's handwriting big and messy like it had always been. Tiff, it began, you didn't ruin anything. You stopped pretending. I let money talk louder than respect. That's on me. I hope you and Tessa will still come. She's part of this family. I miss my sister. I stood at the counter, the note pressed flat under my palm, and let understanding come first. Forgiveness could take its time. The wedding day felt familiar and strange at once. We walked in, Tessa in pink with small star pins in her hair, the sparkly shoes catching light like they had their own ideas. Heads turned, but not the way I'd braced for. The room was warmer, somehow. I noticed what was missing before I noticed what remained. No neon sign humming a name in cursive. No oyster bar pretending to be essential. The tables were simple. Laughter carried farther. Chloe approached us, careful but without the shine. You look beautiful, Tessa, she said. Thank you, Tessa answered, polite and unafraid. During the toast, Aaron lifted his glass and cleared his throat, a habit that used to mean he was about to stall. This time he didn't. To my sister, he said, looking straight at me, who reminded me that peace bought with silence isn't peace at all. The room answered with that soft collective sound people make when the words land where they're meant to. Mom dabbed her eyes. Dad actually smiled. Across the room, the wedding planner leaned against a pillar like a firefighter after the flames are out, relieved the building still stands. Music found the floor. Tessa looked up at me. Are we allowed to dance now? She asked, already half turning. Yes, I said, laughing. Now we are. She spun, the star pins catching light. I stood at the edge for a moment, listening to the easy swing of people enjoying each other without a price tag attached. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything to keep the evening whole. I held my own glass and let the simple math wash over me. Respect, paid in full. Child, fully welcome. Cost, covered where it belonged. The room didn't need a sign to glow. It did fine on its own. We got home late, the kind of late where the city is quiet, but not asleep. Tessa kicked off her sparkly shoes at the door and fell onto the couch, the star pins in her hair holding on like they wanted one more song. I turned off the lamp by the window and stood for a moment in the soft dark we'd earned. The apartment felt different. Same walls, same rug, same stubborn tomato plant leaning into the night, but lighter, as if something I'd been paying rent on had finally moved out. In the kitchen, I set a mug under the kettle and opened the drawer with the pens. The sticky notes sat in their neat square, patient. I peeled one free, pressed it flat on the counter, and wrote the rules that had been writing themselves in me all month. 1. My child is not leverage. 2. Help is voluntary. No strings, no guilt. 3. Dignity is non-negotiable. I smoothed the paper with my palm and pressed it to the fridge, just beneath the small square that still said, "We don't owe anyone." The new note buckled, then caught. Behind me, the kettle clicked. I turned, poured water, watched the steam curl and vanish. "Did we win?" Tessa's voice floated from the couch, thick with sleep. "We did what we needed," I said. She padded in, hair a little crooked, dress rumpled like a party that knew when to end. She read the note, lips moving. "Can I add one?" she asked, already reaching for the pen. "You can," I said. She made a fourth line like it had been waiting for her. 4. Always dance if there's music. She drew a small star next to each rule and signed a tiny T at the corner, the way she signs her homework when she's proud of it. I tucked her into bed, lifted the sloth from the floor to its usual post, and stood at the doorway counting to 10 the way I always do, not out of superstition, but to make space for gratitude. Her breath evened. The apartment settled. I sat at the kitchen table and let the quiet be loud. 2 days later, Mom called. Her voice had a new slowness to it, like she was choosing words that didn't bruise. "I've been thinking," she said. "I didn't realize how much we asked of you. I'm sorry." I closed my eyes, not to cry but to listen better. "Thank you," I said. "Let's start fresh with respect, not requests." "I'd like that," she answered, small and real. When we hung up, I stared at the note on the fridge until the words felt like they belonged to the room and not just to me. I wrote one more line, simple as a yes you don't have to explain. 5. No is a complete sentence. Life did not turn into a movie montage. Bills still came. Work still needed more than there was. The laundry in the hall still hummed like polite gossip. But the calls thinned, and when they came, they were different. Updates, not emergencies. Invitations, not invoices. Aaron sent a picture of him and Chloe on a porch somewhere, hair messy, no sign in sight. He captioned it, "We're learning." I wrote back, "Good." On a Tuesday, after dinner, Tessa cued a song on the tiny speaker, the same one that once turned a kitchen into a courtroom. "Random dance break," she announced. We moved the chairs back and made a floor out of the rug that pretends to be confetti. She spun. I followed. We were not graceful. We were absolutely right. When the music stopped, the apartment held its shape around us, small, bright, ours. I glanced at the fridge, at the rules we'd chosen, at the life we'd decided to pay in a different currency. I thought of all the times I'd bought peace on layaway and called it love. Then I turned off the light, let the room find its quiet, and felt the relief of a home that no longer charged a fee for being ourselves.